Welcome to Din's Talk, the space where soul wisdom meets bold action. I'm Mia Dins, your host, here to ignite your fire, help you claim your power, and guide you to take unstoppable steps towards your dream. Every episode is designed to awaken your purpose, fuel your passion, and spark transformation in your life. It's time to step into your truth and never stop. Let's dive in. Welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode on Din's Talk. Let's talk soul. I'm so excited for this episode today with my special guest, and I am introducing her. So she is someone who wears many hats, and a question that she likes to ask is, what would you do if someone told you the odds were less than 1%? Would you give up or would you fight anyway? Absolutely love that question. And she has spent years collecting the stories of people who chose to fight and won. Maria Aponte is the host of Against All Odds podcast, The Less Than 1% Chance, and the author of her debut book by the same name, a memoir anthology that will move you to tears, fill you with hope, and make you believe in people again. Her message is very simple. Life always happens for you and not to you. And I couldn't agree more with that statement. And I'm so excited that you're here today because welcome. And I am excited because I was on your podcast a couple of months ago and it was amazing. And it's such a beautiful conversation. And I couldn't wait for you to come on my podcast and also now share your book because it's finally out there.
Well, thank you so much, Mia. I'm so excited. This has been quite a journey, and I had the best time with our conversation before. I'm so excited because I get to be in your space again, and that makes me so happy. So thank you so much for having me. I think you pretty much got it. I'm a against all odds story from the very beginning of my current existence. I was a surviving twin. So my mom was about 2 to 3 months pregnant when she had a miscarriage, and I ended up surviving the miscarriage. So I was a twin, and in a little town in Puerto Rico, it was just not something that they gave too much survival chances. And so I've beaten the odds from before I was even breathing in this world. And so it has that's just kind of been my trajectory. Has always been the odds. I've beat cancer 4 times. I've almost died on the operating table when I was 28 years old, and all of that, like, could have I went through moments, right, of darkness and depression and really trying to figure out why life was happening to me. And when I started to really shed those beliefs and saw, well, all of this happened, but it actually happened for me because I wouldn't be who I am today if I had not experienced the things that I did. And so it really prepared me for living the life that I needed to live, and really anchored the legacy that I wanted to leave for my kids and, you know, every generation that comes after me.
It's so beautiful and powerful. And thank you for sharing this. I mean, there's so many things I want to circle back to. But first and foremost, I wanted to point out, isn't that interesting? And even, like how many people put their story out there. Let's say they are an amazing world stage athlete or a multimillionaire or an Elon Musk kind of thing. But people rarely, now it's more common, but share those stories of common people that are true miracles, right? Truly against the odds. And that's why I love that you're here today. And I love creating that space for people too, because I think so many more people need to hear this. And also, there is someone out there, not just someone I'm feeling, there are many people out there who really need to hear this, what we're talking about today. And now, because I love to go into this, because it's very important for people to understand also the energy, how we enter the world is already bringing a lot of things, karmic stuff and whatever is tied to that. We're bringing that into, and that, like you described it, like you lost your twin, which is a
Yeah.
huge wound that you
Yeah.
probably, I know you're still reconciling parts of it, because there's always a part that is missing, right? It's like a
Yeah.
part of you, oh my gosh, it's missing. But also, like, because you were already written off, like, oh, it's only a little percent chance here. And how was it showing up in your life? Like, was like sometimes people may develop the core wound of rejection or are not being wanted or things like that. How was it showing up for you?
So, in many ways, actually, and for like my entire life, I felt like there was a part of me missing and I didn't necessarily understand. So, a few years ago in 2022, I did a quantum healing session with mentor friend, all around amazing human being. And she really, when I did this session, I spoke to my higher self, and I went back and I really um lived relived the experience of grief, losing my twin, and saw that all the strength that they had, they gave to me. And so sometimes I've heard so many times in my life, how did you even get through that? And in my mind I'm like, I honestly I have no idea. But when I had that session, I kind of like, it was like something, they were still part of me in some way. And it was the immense amount of strength that came, that I've been able to learn how to not be like toxic positive, but understand that there's an optimism in every situation. I could look at life, right, as, God, this is always happening to me, I'm so exhausted, like, why is this always happening to me, why is life always treating me this way, why? Or I could say, maybe I could find purpose behind the things that I'm going through. Maybe with what I'm going through, it's preparing me to help somebody else. Maybe, I dealt with this situation only to have the knowledge and the strength to either help somebody else that is going through it, or for a future situation that's happening. And that's happened many times in my life. And we could get into all of that. I have really zero filter into what my story has been, but it really, it just showed me that, like, there has been abandonment, that feeling of abandonment, that like that grief that has literally followed me through my entire life. And sometimes I didn't understand, like, why do I feel this way, why is this like so hard? And then as I kept like going through it, and I kept surviving it, right? Against all odds, I kept surviving it. It really shaped who I was. And now I'm like the queen of reframing things, because even with my kids, or my nephew that I took in for a little bit of his teenage years, like, I'm constantly redirecting, or actually, how about if maybe this is happening so that you learn this, or something different comes out of it, or you just come out of it with knowledge and patience and trust in yourself that you can get through it. Like, I'm always trying to reframe the thought process, because as humans we tend to when the ego is so high, it's all about us. Like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah,
Right?
totally. Yeah, I love that, and the reframing part as well. And I mean, this is powerful. This is how you can thrive through challenges as well, because life is meant to challenge us.
Yeah.
It's not here to make us just happy. We all have our own challenges. It's just how it is. And I can't remember who said that. Way smarter than me. Like, when our brain is wired to only look what it's about to lose, not what it can gain. Soul, like the soul, when it goes into the unknown, there, like, it's more expansive. Like, no, there's
Yeah.
something more to come. But when there are challenges happening or things we need to let go or whatever, instantly we think about all the things we're about to lose, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's how we
Yeah.
are wired. That's how our brain is protecting us. And it's not about, like, it will never go away. It will always be that way. However, when you have the awareness, you can start reframing it like you did. And I do a practice at the moment as well, because I got so stuck on one problem. And it was one night under the stars when it was a download. It was actually for a close friend of mine. And then it was at the same time, it was applied to me as well. So I thought, okay, now I'm always so focused on this problem, but it's almost like I'm clinging on to it. There's no energy moving. And I remembered, like, we know you cannot create nor can you destroy energy, but you can shift, transmute, alchemize it. And I thought, okay, let's just create different problems. So my energy will be moved to other problems. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about traumatic problems here. I know
Yeah.
starting a with my family. Okay, not that, but like let's, maybe there's something you wanted to create a new program or something for clients. Put all your energy into there, fix that problem. Or I like to use little physical challenges, like a new handstand position or something I'm failing at all the time. Then my energy instantly shifts, right? Can be very
Yeah.
simple. You need to rearrange your office space or your house, whatever. Choose whatever. Shift your energy. And then you free up some space from that problem. It can actually breathe, like it can
Yeah.
breathe. Be like, okay, now I get to show you a little bit of what you actually need to do. And it's magic,
It
honestly.
is.
And all of a sudden you're fully focused on all the other problems and you've totally forgot about that. And I'm like, oh, there's a solution coming. So I love
Yeah.
that reframing, shifting. It's so powerful because I feel like you also said with the positive toxicity or like toxic positivity. Yeah, absolutely. Not about bypassing. It will always
Yeah.
be there, right? There will always be negativity. Something will come up. But like, yeah, what are you going to choose? What do you do with it? And when you started to realize that, and how did that, shape up your life? And obviously you chose then to create the podcast, your podcast.
Did. So actually that was a download from my higher self, was the podcast and the name. It was something that I always knew. I was just that against all odds story. So I'm the less than 1% chance. And we could look at that in two ways, right? We could look at it like, again, everything is always happening to me. I'm always at like less than 1% chance. I was the surviving twin, which again, in the time that it happened, in the place that it happened, the probability of me surviving was so small. And I was 2 months old and had my brothers were so excited to have a baby sister, and they gave me chicken pox. And at 2 months old, you don't have vaccines, you don't have any of that that protects you. Your fever spikes, and the probability of surviving that was small. And obviously science has changed, but I'm thinking, I'm looking at it from the lens of the things that my mom experienced, right? Or my dad, when at that time, the fear of, oh my gosh, this child of mine that is just a baby, 2 months old, is spiking a fever, it's dangerous, and all of the things, right? But I overcame that. And I've seen that play out in my life so often. I was always the, like, I think at like 8 years old, we were in on vacation in Puerto Rico because I moved to Florida when I was 4.5. So we went back to Puerto Rico, visited family, and I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old. And we were on the beach. My cousin had a boat, and we had gone to like this little island off of the coast of Puerto Rico. And I was like running and playing, and all of a sudden I like smacked into something. And it wasn't anything that was moving, but I smacked into the boat that we were, like, I remember like hitting my chin. I had like all of this like blood coming down, and my mom's like, "How did you not see this big huge boat? And out of all the things that you could have smacked into, it was this huge thing that was just, like, right in the way, right?" It was always just like the most random things. And so I saw that, throughout my life. When I was 16 years old, I was sexually assaulted while I was babysitting. And the uncle put something in my drink. He was, I think, I was 16, he was 26. And he came in after, he was a DJ, and whatever, I had a drink and he put something in it while the baby was sleeping. And so when I drank it, I remember feeling um this I remember everything. So I don't think it was like a roofie, but it was some type of drug that I could not physically the fear that comes in, right? I don't know where I'm at. I think that when you start driving, you start learning your surroundings so much better. I wasn't driving yet, and so I didn't know where I was at. It was a gated house. I'm like, how am I even gonna do anything? I could barely walk from one place to the other. And so I was sexually assaulted, and I stayed quiet. I didn't say anything because all of the fear that comes in. um and what are they going to think, and how are they going to react, and are they going to think it was my fault? And all of this starts, like, fear that starts going in your head. And I stayed quiet. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything for 3 years. But at the age of 18, so prior to me even saying anything, at the age of 18, I went for my first well woman checkup. And I went by myself. My mom didn't go with me because I was an adult already. And I was like, all right, I know that I have to do this. And so I go, and my first pap smear came back with cervical cancer. And he had given me the HPV strand that causes cancer in women. And because I did not treat it, I did not say anything. It was already at a higher stage of the cervical cancer, and they found cells that were more progressed. And at 18, I was number one in shock. Number two, it was more fear of like, oh my gosh, like, is this it? Is this where it ends? And so that became, again, a story. Nobody understood, like, that you don't have a history of cervical cancer in your family. You're 18 years old. How could this be happening? And I knew, and inside that was just killing me. And so again, it was just the fear of what are they going to think? Are they going to think it's my fault? And really, it actually, so I had gone back to babysit that family, and he had done it again. And I had gone back a third time, and that third time I had just met my now ex-husband, but my this guy, right? And we were talking on the phone when the guy came home from his DJ gig. And that phone call saved me from a third time from it happening again. And so it was, I was like, oh my gosh, like, he saved me was the thing in my head. And little did I know that I could eventually save myself. But in that moment, I felt such connection with this person. And so when I turned 18, and I found out that, I had cervical cancer and all of this, I was just like in shock as to, like, again, why is this happening to me? Like, haven't I already gone through enough? Hasn't this already been enough to, like, burden myself with? Because again, still nobody knew. And so it has become, at that moment, it just felt like, why is this happening to me? And I kept asking myself that. And so I had surgery. Thankfully, with cervical cancer, you could cut, some of the cervix off. There's a procedure called the leap, and they remove the section that is affected. And because it had not spread anywhere, I didn't have to go through chemo. I didn't have to do any of that kind of treatment, but I had to go back at the beginning, every 6 months. And so I went back 6 months later. Everything was fine. I went back 6 months after that, and the cancer had come back. And it wasn't as aggressive. So they did a different type of procedure called a cryosurgery. So they froze my cervix and let the cells, like, die away. And then it renewed the cells. But at that doctor's appointment, the doctor said, you haven't been ovulating. I don't think that you're going to be able to have kids. And I was like, what? And it was like, that was what I saw my entire life. I've always been like, it's always been like this gravitational pull to children. And I was like, no, I'm meant to be a mom. What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, Maria, with the probability of, with the HPV and the cancer and the fact that you're not ovulating, the probability of you having kids is very slow. And I was like, what can I do? And I was engaged at the time, and he was like, I mean, we can get you off of birth control and so forth. And I'm like, all right. So he said, we can try for 6 months off of birth control, and we can make sure that, let's see if anything happens. And then if not, then we'll go to the next step. And so I got married. Well, first of all, let me back it up a little bit. So I stopped going to school. I was going for cosmetology at the time, and I stopped going to school because I was depressed. Because I knew, and nobody knew, right? Nobody knew why this was happening to me again at 19. And I was depressed, and I just stopped going. My dad was paying for it. I would go to my then boyfriend's house and sleep all day while he was at work. My dad thought that I was at school, and then I would get up when I had to go because I was working with him at the time. When I had to get up and go work with him, I would get up, get dressed, like if I was put on the smock, like as if I was at school all day. And it got to like 2 months. I gained like 20 pounds because all I did was like sleep all day. And the director of the school called me and she was like, Maria, I understand that you had this surgery but you're not coming to school and I'm going to have to drop you from the class. And I'm like, no, because that means that my dad would find out that I wasn't going to school and then he would like it was the trickle effect, right? So he would find out that I wasn't going to school. Why wasn't I going to school? I had to then answer that question for him. And like my brain just went like haywire and I was like, no, 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 Miss Baker, can I go in and talk to you? And she was like, yeah, that's fine. I set a time to go and talk to her and I got in, I sat down in her office, closed the door, and I was like, I let everything spill out of me.
Hmm.
Like I spoke up for the first time. I was like, I was raped. This is why I have, he gave me HPV. The HPV caused cancer, and this is why this is happening. But I have never told anyone. And so when I finally stopped like speaking and crying and opened my eyes through the tears, she's crying and I'm like, why are you crying, Miss Baker? And she was like, well, Maria, a few years ago I was called because my daughter was drugged and left beside a dumpster after she was raped at a party. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that was life happening for me because the person that I actually opened up to was the person that had not herself necessarily experienced it, but knew what to do, what I needed in that moment in order, life puts people in your path to guide you. And she was the guiding light in my life so that I finally spoke up. And she had me come back to school and start coming to school, but also then go to therapy during school so that I could, because I told her, I was like, I'm not telling my parents. Absolutely not. That's not happening. And so I went to therapy for the first time to this clinic that took care of, nonprofit, took care of women that had gone through similar situations. And so she was my little angel in that moment and guided me to that clinic, guided me to start speaking about it. And the relief that I had felt in that moment was so immense that I learned that because I stayed silent for 3 years, my body was in dis-ease and it
Hmm.
created this disease. And so I had to learn that through speaking my story, which is why I never have a filter with the things that I go through, because I know that if I internalize this, it's going to create disease in my body. And because it's happened to me 4 times. I've had cancer 4 times. And I've had things that, again, that were crazy against all odds. And in those times, if I look in those times, every single time, there has been something that I'm internalizing and I'm keeping in, and my body is in dis-ease. And so I've learned now, looking back, that every time I let go of that, my body figured out how to work itself and figured out how to get better and figured out, it flowed in the way that there was no more dis-ease, so this disease dissolved. And it really has been a few times in my life that's kind of like shaped me. But yeah, that's a little bit of my startup story, if you will.
Oh, wow. I mean, thank you for this vulnerable share. And I truly appreciate you having no filter, being super vulnerable, because I love it. And I personally am the same. And I feel like people need to hear that even more. And I feel like sometimes even I can be more vulnerable because I appreciate it when someone is vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? And when you
Yeah.
hear someone's story and they're so raw, talk about the mess, talk about the emotions. I just feel like it's amazing. I admire that. And I mean, wow. I know I knew your story from our talk, right? We talked about that right away. But of course, I didn't remember all the details. But
Yeah.
wow, I'm so happy and grateful that you're here. And I love how you actually reflect back and actually what you just said about when you don't express how it actually creates ease in the body, and it creates the unprocessed emotions. They get stored and they will show up, and so that's my messaging, my quantum embodiment, what I'm talking about all the time. And I know there are many other people who talk about that. This is really deeply stored on a cellular level. And I had a similar experience. I didn't have actually the cancer, but the pre-cancer cells, like the
Yeah.
stage before what you had.
Yeah.
And also now, when you actually just talked about it, I started to realize and reflect back, which I never put the dots together, because I also had some random, sexual partners, not protected, and that was actually created through that as well. And of course, a lot of things that you bring, also I was sexually abused when I was 6,
Yeah.
all these things. And of course, I didn't have a checkup until
Yeah.
God later, right? And it's interesting. People would now think, oh, but it's, you carry all that. And I also really love this part of the womb space, because it's such a sacred space. It has so much wisdom. It actually is
Yeah.
such a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And we spoke about that, I believe, on when I was on your podcast as well, how much it actually holds. And I have done the past, like, almost 2 years, so much work on it, and it's incredible how much was stored there for me personally, with my story and with everything I also hold from the ancestral lineage and things like that, that needed to be released. My gosh, I was full of shit, like, literally. Yeah. And it's interesting because, right, we try to do so many things on the outside, but if I wouldn't have gone there, then I can do all the things on the outside. Nothing will shift and change. I will always come
Yeah.
back into the same cycle. And wow, and it's such a, you're so courageous and to do that. And I'm also, it's amazing how you said how it was happening for you. And that means you really worked through this. I know there might be people out there now. How could you say that this is happening for you? I know there are lots of people who probably think that that's totally cool and okay. But I also am a believer like you. Once you work through the trauma, the things that are happening to you, you embody it, and then you can truly say it happened for me. And I say
Yeah.
it with every single thing, no matter how bad, no matter how challenging it was in my life, it happened for me because it gave me a gift, an insight. And since we both, I know we shared the value and belief of that, that we have, we are a soul for the human experience here. And we bring in so many things from past lives, unresolved things, karma, whatever it is. We are here to resolve that. We are here to learn, to grow and expand. And the only way we do that is by being challenged. That is like, if
Yeah.
we all are comfortable all day, 24/7, we are not
Yeah.
learning.
We're
We're
not
not.
going to grow. There's not going to be any growth.
We know that I've been comfortable in my life at times, and there will be times where I'm getting comfortable in the future as well. But I catch myself very quickly, because I know myself so well now, that I know when I do certain things, they're not aligned with me. This means I'm too comfortable. And then I assess, then I look at, okay, where am I too comfortable? What is going on here? And then you can shift. And it's the power of it. It's not about being perfect or constantly being like in high mode, be like, oh, I'm going to go and challenge myself. It's not about that. It's about like really learning to work with your rhythm. And ha- like how, what has shifted, with your lifestyle. I also know you're a mom of 3,
Yeah.
and
I am.
I mean, such a
Yeah,
vulnerable.
so talk about against all odds, right? The doctor told me I couldn't, and I ended up being like, "Watch me. All right, 3." Not 1, not 2, but 3. Yeah, you said something, and I remember you having said this all the time, and I thought it was like so positive, and everything happens for a reason. And when I started to analyze that, and I don't remember who I heard it from, but it was an author that I followed, um, or I still follow, but I remember seeing a video that she said, I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, because there shouldn't be a reason that, there's people that get raped, or there shouldn't be a reason that kids that are little and innocent get sick and die in such a horrific way sometimes. And there shouldn't be a reason. But in all of it, we could find purpose. And so I started to shift that thought process, because the everything happens for a reason is the toxic positivity. But if I can find purpose and meaning behind the things that are happening, then I could evolve and grow from it, rather than stay stuck in it and just be like, it happened for a reason. And so I started to shift that, and now every time that I hear anybody say, "Oh, everything happens for a reason," or "there was a reason for it," and I'm like, no, let's not. How about we look at, there's a purpose behind it. What's the purpose? Because when you start looking for purpose, it appears. And I took in my at the time 16-year-old nephew. He had a lot, and he still has a lot of mother wound issues. His mom just is not the best human being, or wasn't the best human being to him. And probably had to deal with a lot of her own um traumas and so forth. But it really affected him. And so my brother ended up having to take him in after his mom kicked him out at 15. And my brother was married, and my nephew was being super disrespectful to his wife. And that they ended up having a huge fight. And so I took him in, and it was a really difficult time because my nephew, th- my family was not very happy with me taking him in. It should have been his mom. And I'm like, she won't. So I'm going to step in. I was a single mom of 3 kids and had a very high intensity, high energy job in career in the travel industry at the time. And so I was busy, and the last thing I needed was to take in another child and not have any help. And so I took him in, and he he loves me like nothing else. I watched this little kid being born. I was there. I was there. I was one of the first people that held him. And so I've always had this big connection to him. However, he was pushing buttons, and my oldest at the time, I think, was probably 10, 11, 12, around that age. She was dealing with a lot of her mental health issues. And at the time, at 12, they diagnosed her with bipolar disorder, which was super young. Looking back now, again from a lens of now, I really think that she has a gift, a spiritual gift, that she was struggling with. She would tell me that she saw people that were dead, and saw the horrific ways that people died. And so those were, in the moment, what I thought was her hallucinations or anything like that. But regardless, this was what we were struggling with in the moment. And so when my nephew comes in, and he was pushing buttons and really, I want to say, preparing me for what I went through with my oldest daughter.
Mm.
He prepared me to be able to hold the space for her to know what to do. Not that I did things right, because we're all always learning, but I know that I did the best that I could for her because of the preparation that I had with my nephew.
Mm.
And so I found purpose in it. And I'm not saying that what he and I experienced was easy, not at all. But it prepared me for another part of my life that I would have probably made some more difficult decisions or experienced it a different way with her if I was like, oh, that's right. So this is what I did this time, and this is what can happen, and this is what's going to happen if we go down this route. And so it really prepared me. And so I look at things like, not necessarily for a reason. There shouldn't be a reason that this kid gets kicked out of his mom's house at 15, and there shouldn't be a reason that he's struggling so much with what they call the mommy issues, right? There shouldn't be a reason that he has to experience life this way. However, I think he learned that, number one, there's somebody that will unconditionally be there for you, because I still am. And he's I think 25 now, about to be 26, or maybe he just turned 26. The understanding that there was purpose behind it, not that we needed to find a reason, but we could find a purpose. And so he knows that in me, Titi is unconditionally there, and I will always be the one to tell him the truth. and be very straight up with him, and he looks for that in me because he doesn't have it with his mother, but he sees me in that. So at least in that aspect, he knows that he has someone that will always go to bat for him, but will also always put him in his place. Cause that's who I am. I'm very real. I'm very honest. I'll give you my thoughts in a lens of the perspective of, listen, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to guide you and you make your decisions.
Mhm.
And so it is what I do with my kids. It's hard to let go of that control of, well, you're my kids and you have to do what I say, but they're growing, and now it's time for me to kind of step back and guide. But yeah, so I feel like there isn't a reason that we go through things, but we can find purpose behind it.
I love the nuance in it because it's like it's very nuanced, but it's totally different, if that makes sense. It's very,
Yeah.
very powerful, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like even though I have used the sentence, everything happens for a reason, but I always look for the purpose. So I used the sentence, but had the different meaning behind it. I was also always asking, what is it teaching me? What is it showing me? What can I learn from this right now? Rather than because as the everything happens for reasons, there's like passiveness, like
Yes.
this is not like, and I don't like that. It's inaction. Same thing with no surrender, the word that, I mean, there's semantics, but some people just take them wrongly. It really depends on the energy that's behind that. That's what truly matters. And so it's powerful. What I really like, I thought because he had so many against the odds moments, and I think it would be great. Do you remember? I don't know which one. Maybe probably all devastating. But what is the? Can you remember one where you really thought, okay, now I'm gonna give up. Now I cannot no more. And what is the process from that moment? Because the thing, like before the breakthrough comes the breakdown, and when we break down, actually, it's old parts of us are dying, old parts that are no longer serving us, and we need to let them go.
Yeah.
Was there like how what's your process when that happens, and how much time do you take to shift now? Yeah.
Yeah. So I could say at 32 years old, so about in 2015, so about 11 years, around April of that year, I was a single mom of three. I was in a long distance relationship with my high school sweetheart, and just going through it. My daughter again had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Life at home was very difficult. I was traveling every other or I was traveling for work for 25% of the year I was traveling. So as a single mom, it was hard, and everything was just always like, I felt like everything was my responsibility. I didn't have the support that I needed from their dad. Not the support, he was always there, but never to like jump in and be like, yeah, I got you. I'll take care of them for the week while you travel. No, I had to find someone to take care of them for me. So it things like that. So he was always there, just not above and beyond like I would have wanted. And that's expectations. I had to learn that the hard way. But, it in that moment everything was coming my way. And I was told that the cancer had come back. I was 32 years old, and the cancer, after years, the last time I had cervical cancer was at 19. I went through fertility treatment. I went through um, uh, getting pregnant on birth control. So I was at that less than 1% chance that can get pregnant. That was me. And of course, right? And then, I ended up, using a different form of birth control. I got an IUD. And with the IUD, less than 1% chance get pelvic inflammatory disease. And of course, that was me. And I ended up having what they thought was a surgery to remove a cyst, ended up being like a full C-section to remove my right ovary and fallopian tube, because it had caused this abscess around it. So all that to say, I had gone through things before, um, and I ended up at 32. I'm like, again, like, really? And it felt like the world like collapsed, because at that time, then I'm a single mom of three kids. So if I don't survive this, what it will happen with them? And that was my thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I went into depression. I gained again 20 pounds in like 2 months. I had surgery, um And I remember I had surgery June 1st of that year. And then the kids were in summer. So they were with their dad every other week for the summer because, he didn't have to take them to school. So he could manage. And so when they were at school, I was traveling for work. And so my life was really, really busy. And it was like this functioning depression that I I couldn't fathom getting up off of bed. But when I did, I was just go, 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 go. And when I would finally like get back, it was like a crash. And so it was like this cycle of that. And finances, it was all on me, but it was like everything at that moment just felt like so overwhelming. And when the kids were at my house, when I had them for the week, I had to pay for summer camp for all three of them. And it was just so much all the time. And so, um, I felt myself slipping back into depression. And it was functioning. I was functioning because I had no other choice. I had to move because if not, then these kids wouldn't get fed. So I remember feeling like enough is enough. Like I can't. What do I have to do to prepare my kids? I started to teach them how to cook. At least their basic necessities were taken care of. They started to do laundry. Like all of these things that if I'm not here, this is what I'm doing to prepare them for survival so that they don't have to depend on somebody else, that they could do it themselves. And so that was my mentality that year. And about August, I got to a point that I was like, I can't. I don't even know. Like, I need to do something. And I don't know where I heard it, but I'm like, I love to travel. So on the plane, they tell you put your oxygen mask on first before that you help others. And I don't know what clicked. And I was like, I'm going to start working out. I need to lose weight. I've gained so much weight. I feel disgusting. There was some issues with the boyfriend. So it was just like a lot of things that were just falling apart. And I was like, I need to do something. So I saw this ad for a at-home workout program that was dancing, and I was like, I can dance. I have rhythm. I may not have coordination, but I have so much rhythm that I can, if I don't have to think about it, I'll dance. And so I could do that from home. I don't have to go anywhere to do that. And so I started to change my lifestyle. I started to eat right. I started to drink water. I started drinking this all natural superfood shake every day. And I started to little by little do things that were putting my oxygen mask on first. And with that workout program, I remember I started posting on social media because I was like, if I'm doing this from home, I'm going to have to be accountable somehow. And so posting on social media held me accountable because people knew what I was going to do. So I was like, ooh, I have to show up. And so I started to show up, and it got to a point where I then got into a community that I started listening to personal development, and I started reading books, and I started to really again focus on what I was consuming, what was coming into my head, what was the energy that I was surrounding myself with, and I started to make shifts. And this was at the end of August, starting September. And in October, I had my 4-month follow up, and I went and did the pap smear. And the day that I got my results, I had a 4-hour blood test with my daughter that took 6 hours because she fought every single way there. It was in a fender bender. I had a teenager hit the back of my car. So me and my son were in a accident. And then I go to the gynecologist, and they were like, Maria, the cancer came back. And I was like, what? Like, it just felt like the rug was pulled from under me. I was like, but I'm doing all these good things. And so
So
it
that was
was
the
that.
second time now. So you were 32, then you started to do lifestyle change, and again it came back.
It came back at 32. So at 32, I had it in. Well, I had the surgery in June, so I found out in April, and then we did more testing to make sure. And then I had the surgery in June, and then in October was my 4-month follow up. It had come back. It wasn't as aggressive, but it had come back. And so the doctor sat me down and he's like, my recommendation would be a hysterectomy because this has already come back so much. And plus you have kids. And I'm like, but I'm 32 and I'm with this person and I would love to give this person a baby. And I've always imagined myself with 4 kids. And like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And my daughter's about to be a teenager and she's dealing with all her mental health issues and I'm going to be in menopause. Like it was just all of these things like and my all of the stories. So my grandmother has osteoporosis. So does that mean that because I'm not getting the hormones, because I'm not doing hormone replacement there because that causes more cancer. Not doing that. That was the mindset, the conversation that was happening at the time. And so all of this to say like my world's like collapsed for a moment. And I thankfully was listening to some personal development and I had thankfully surrounded myself with amazing community in my health journey that I really had to I took about a week at that moment to give him a decision as to if I was going to do the surgery or not. And I had a business trip and I went on this business trip and I sat at the because I traveled to Miami. I sat at the on the beach and I was just like watching a sunrise and I was like, you know what? I need to continue to see these sunrises and I can't allow this to go down a way that would then affect my children. I want to continue to see them every morning. And so I decided to do the surgery. I called him that day and I scheduled the surgery. The surgery was for December 9th, which is a week before my 3rd birthday. And so I kind of reached out to my community and I told them what was happening. And I said, I have to stay accountable. I need you to hold me accountable for sticking to this journey. And my goal before my surgery is to get under 150 pounds. I'm not sure how that is in kilos, but about 150 pounds. And I really, that's my goal. So keep me focused. Don't let the depression hit again because I've been there, right? I knew that was where I was going to head. And so I stayed accountable. And by December 8th, which was the day before my surgery, I was 149.6 pounds. So I hit my goal of under 150. I had my surgery. They had to remove the surviving ovary and everything else. And I had to just wait for my pathology report. And when a week later, on my birthday, I had my follow up appointment, and the doctor sat me down and he's like, Maria, the whole pathology report says that there was no signs of cancer. And I was like, what? So I continue to stay the course of my health journey, with my mindset, of the community that I was surrounding myself with, um, the being open and vocal about what I was going through so that I could receive the blessings that were coming my way from everybody else because everyone wanted to see me succeed and get better. And I didn't allow for the negativity. Basically, if it was out there, it wasn't, that energy was not coming my way. And I stayed the course, and the cancer had not even, like, it had gone before I even had the surgery. And so I had two thoughts in that moment. I was like, do you mind if I curse?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay.
Hot.
I was like, fuck. Like, I actually didn't have surgery or didn't have the cancer. So I didn't even need to have this surgery. Or I could say, because at the same time that I said that, right? And then I was like, or this was just preparing me for to be healthy the rest of my life and be here the rest of my life and be here for my kids and continue to live. So it was life happening to me, fuck, or life
Yeah.
happening for me, and it was preparing me.
Wow, that's incredible. But also to see the whole like red line through it. It was all about your womb space, right? Because it was because I work with the quantum embodiment, right, with the cellular level. What I see and feel, but just my little downloads here. Because you suppressed it for 3 years, and there was obviously so much developing that was deeply, deeply, deeply stored on a cellular level. That's why it was all about the womb space. But also, isn't the womb space is about, right, the expression is also our safety space, and you got invaded there, and that's just like basically your body constantly always wanted to release more and more and more, because when we suppress so much, I'm just pointing this up because it can be with anything, with people, when they're in abusive relationships, or maybe something happened to them when they were a kid. It doesn't have to be like as traumatizing. Like that could be little things, but depends
Yeah.
how it is stored in the body. It is
Yeah.
stored, doesn't matter. It's like data, it's like energy that is stored. When it's not expressed, and I'm just so amazed by how the body is actually like working this higher intelligence, and how it is truly talking to us all the time. It's signaling to us things. And I know oftentimes, including myself, despite the awareness, I'm like, what the fuck? I did already work so much on this. Why is this coming back? And this constant pain, whatever. And then I remember and remind myself, hey, my body is communicating with me. I'm just not
Yeah.
listening. So,
Yeah.
and then I do little practices, and then it's amazing what comes through in the moment. This could be little things that I suppress, and I start to express it. And it's not about you have to dig deep into everything and analyze it. It's not about that. It's really about see it, feel it, release it. Simple
Mhm.
as that. It
Yeah.
could be really that simple. And I think so many people, with what I, from my own experience, when they start tiptoeing around this and want to know more, they get scared. Oh, does it mean like I have to go now really deep for years and, live in this? And no, that's why we did the work already. There are people out there who went through this, and they have now tools to show you that may align with you and help you to actually collapse the timeline here, to collapse the time, so to shorten it. You still have to get uncomfortable. There's still moments where we have to go deep, where learn to
You're gonna
understand
feel
yourself
it. Yeah.
better and listen. And nobody can take that away and can do it for you. Absolutely not. There's no shortcut in that way. There are certain tools that can help you to speed the whole thing up and accelerate it. So I'm just like so proud of you, and I'm amazed and in awe and all things together that you did all that. And it's one thing when you're alone, like a single person like myself. And of course, I have my own baggage of things, other things that I have my challenges with. But when you are having three other lives to care for, plus you took care of your father at some point as
Yeah.
well, didn't you? I remember from when you told, like, so many things, and that is another level than to. And I get goosebumps when I say that, because that's just not. Well, firstly, then to still apply the oxygen mask first on me is very challenging. Plus that, also the fear, like leaving them behind alone, right? That puts on some extra pressure. And then to still keep the balance, to not fall either way on the scale here, to go super depressed, but also super ignorant on the other side. Wow, it just takes a lot of work, like, I mean, that.
It was a lot of it was a lot of work. And I think that over the years I've learned from different mentors and took what I needed from each of them, and it really shaped how I process things, how quick I got through them, and really I learned not I was open already, like I was very open with what I was going through, but the fact that like I had um a story to tell. I've wanted to be an author since I was in middle school. I would write chapters of this love story that I created in my brain, and I would write these chapters and then put it, like, on graph paper, because we didn't have computers back then. I would write this chapter, and then I would, like, let my friends read it, and they would, spread it against around from each other, and then wait for me to write the next chapter. And so this was in middle school. And so for years, and through mentors, and through I was listening yesterday to an app that I have called Think Up, and you can record yourself, with your vision or affirmations, and then you could play those, and it'll have like music behind it and so forth. Anyways, so I was listening to one of my affirmations on there, and it said that I was a number one New York Times best-selling author. And I've wanted to be an author since I could remember. I loved books. And I I from my quantum healing session in 2022 came the download of from my higher self that I was going to have a podcast, and it was going to be called Against All Odds. And it was because my message wasn't just for me. It was for the world. And that needed to go out there. So Against All Odds came from that. It was born from a quantum healing session that I did. And the less than 1% chance, well, that's been my life. So I created this podcast because I wanted to highlight people that had gone through difficult things, and doesn't matter. It's not like a competition of mine was more difficult than yours. It was because I feel like when we go through things, we have shared emotions, and it could be totally different situations. But if I can connect to your story and connect my emotions to your story, then it'll help someone else connect their emotions and see that they can come out of that darkness and find lighthouses all over, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we're all lighthouses, and as we, you know, grow and evolve and really work on ourselves, we become the lighthouse. And I truly believe that the reason that I'm so vocal is because I want to make sure that if I could help that one person see a perspective differently, or help them through whatever they're going through, if I could do that, help with one person, then my legacy will continue to go on, because that's going to shape the people in that person's life, and that those people are going to learn from this one that learned from me, and it's going to just trickle into this legacy. And I literally have legacy tattooed on me because i I believe that that's what, I mean, that was from my late boyfriend. He passed away, but he had this on his arm, so it's exactly the same design, but I put it on my on here on my this arm, and it was something that we always talked about. It was this legacy, and when my dad passed away in 2022, it was coincidentally the same year that I had this quantum healing session, and the same, and when he passed away, and I saw the legacy that he left behind and the impact that he left on his celebration of life was so full. And when he was in the hospital, 2 weeks before passing, his room was never empty. It was just this constant, like the nurses always had to get more chairs because there was constantly so many people, because he impacted so many people. And to me, that's the legacy, right? The fact that he created this impact, that I'm still getting phone calls to his old phone number from customers that are like, "Hey, I was just checking if Mr. Aponte could repair my watches." And I have to tell them, my dad died like 3 years ago. My God, he was such an amazing man, and he always had a smile on his face, and he always made me smile. And oh my God, you were just such a lucky girl because you had him in your life. And I'm like, believe me, I know. And so when I'm processing this grief, because I miss him dearly. I was daddy's girl through and through. And I go to this mindset conference, and the my mindset coach told me, or told the room, you need one massive action today. This weekend, you need to do one massive action towards a goal or a dream that you've been putting off. And I was like, I was told that I needed to do a podcast. My higher self told me that I was going to do a podcast. So I'm going to go do it. And so I did. I went and did this podcast in 3 weeks. I created the artwork, the intro, the outro, I didn't know how to. I went to YouTube University, and I figured out how to do this thing that I wanted, just like I didn't know how to write a book, and I used my resources. Um, and now I have this book.
Oh, it looks
This is the
amazing.
proof. So it says not for resale. So they just sent me a proof of it. But this is my physical book, and
Ooh.
I'm so excited. It's part memoir, part anthology. So it has some of my story in it, and then I picked 8 impactful stories from the many, many that I had, because hopefully there'll be many, many more books. But I picked this 8 really impactful stories that really shaped my life every time I heard them. And so, and then in every chapter there's takeaways. At the very end there's a summary of every chapter. The end of every chapter there's a summary of the takeaways that you learn throughout the chapter. And then at the very end, it kind of just there's 11 chapters. It's my favorite number. So I knew that there had to be 11 chapters.
Yeah.
And so I I did it because I've always wanted to be an author, and I know, and every time I tell my story, someone's like, have you written a book? You have to write a book. And so, again, to me, I didn't know how I was going to achieve that, but I knew that it was on my heart. I went to a class last night called Making My Life Amazing, and it's once a month, and my friend hosts it, and it's just awesome. And we had done some um vision boards, and on my vision board it has this clipping from a magazine that says my story beautifully told. I haven't, this was on a vision board in 2018. And so this Think Up app, as I was showing them, this Think Up app says that I'm a number one New York Times bestselling author. And so I'm like, this was done, this was spoken years ago. And I am now understanding that this is like coming into fruition. I'm an author. Now it's like, now it's time to get it to New York Times bestseller.
Yes, let's go there. But isn't it beautiful to fall in love with the process? And it's amazing. And I know at the end, we will share also in the description box where people can find your podcast, your book, and all of it, and just want to talk to you. And I know, I mean, I can talk to you forever. Like,
I know.
there's so much to share because we have so much depth, and it's so inspiring. And I thought if we just wrapping it up slowly because I also know you need to go,
Yes.
right? It's but like I have a quick lightning round for you,
Tell me.
like something like to just check it up. So if you could sum up your life in one word, what would it be? I know it's a tough one. Just whatever comes through.
Well, fuck.
Well, I love that one. If you could choose one superpower, what would it be and why?
I would I would like to time travel
Time travel?
because yes, because I feel like I've learned how to um to learn from my history. And so if I can learn from my own history, what can I learn from others?
Yeah, wow, I love that. Very powerful. Very, I love it. And what is something people do not know about you and you actually don't like to share? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but
I'm pretty open, so I share a lot. Um, that aside from me being extroverted, I'm actually like I get scared a lot. Like I was getting ready today and I'm like, why am I nervous? And I had to quickly reframe that, and it's excitement. I'm excited. But I actually get very nervous. I'm okay with speaking, and once I start speaking, I'm like totally fine. But
yeah,
it's that nerves because people see me as so extroverted that they don't think that I am. But yeah, this morning I was like, "Ooh, what is that feeling in my body?" I'm a little nervous.
beautiful. It means you're growing, you're stepping up, and you're evolving. Perfect. And one food you cannot live without.
A pizza.
Oh, pizza, pizza.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, she's Italian. She makes the best pizza.
I
I'm
would
not a pizza person.
love that. It would totally not compare to anything over here. I would love that.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And one question I always ask at the end is like, because my podcast is called Dins Talk, right? Dins is my last name.
Mhm.
Years ago, I thought this stands for Do It Never Stop. What is your Do It Never Stop message for the audience? Something that comes to you.
Do it, never stop. I would say living. Do life. Do life, never stop doing it.
Yeah,
Because,
perfect.
you know, that's
Yeah.
that's what we
So
have.
simple as that, just living and embracing life. It's amazing. Amazing. And now, where can people find you if they want to connect with you? And
Yeah.
what's the best
So
way?
the easiest that has everything linked to it is my website. It's www.mariataponte.com. But the book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and then Books by, which is connects to my book directly. And I have more to the customer because with Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, because they're big entities, the customers, I don't see who buys the book, but through books.by, I think it's Love Your Life. I'll give you the link, but it's all linked on my website. And so there's merch. I have merchandise now because this is my that my logo. And so everything is kind of themed around, and it's all purple in some way. My hair, if you can't tell, it's all purple energy. So yeah, mariataponte.com is my website.
Wonderful. I put it all in the description box, guys, so you can find it. They can connect with you. And I hope that, thank you so much for sharing you, for being here, for showing up and just being you. I love this conversation. I could go on forever. And also,
Seriously.
guys, thank you so much for tuning in again. Put it in the comments below or get in touch directly with me or even Maria if you have any further questions. Thank you so much. And until next time.
Thank you. I'm so grateful, Mia. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Din's Talk. I hope today's conversation sparked something within you. Remember, you have the power to align with your soul, take bold action, and live a life fueled by passion. Don't forget to subscribe, share with others, and leave a comment if this episode resonated with you. And as always, do it, never stop. Until next time, keep claiming your fire and your power.